Bears fans, be honest with me. Do you want Teven Jenkins to get traded? This isn't what you think is going to happen. What do you want to happen? You're in charge. You're Ryan Poles. Do you want Teven Jenkins to get traded? Type Y for yes. Type N for no. We're going to explore the latest on Jenkins on today's show. Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. We are sponsored by Mint Mobile. If prices are going up on all your bills, lower them with your cell phone wireless provider. Plan starting at just $15 per month with Mint Mobile. It has changed my life, and my bank account is growing by the day. Get started right now with Mint Mobile, mintmobile.com/chatsports. All right, on today's show, Teven Jenkins trade rumors, what's going on? I think plus some theories, too. A couple of things to explore as this continues to unfold. We'll kind of progress to that part of the show later on. But let's get you caught up on the latest, some background here. In case you aren't fully caught up, Ian Rapoport reported on Monday afternoon that the Bears are taking calls on Teven Jenkins. He, of course, has missed the last several practices, 5 straight as of Tuesday afternoon, and there's a lot of reports, theories that continue to circulate the internet. The Bears blog had something that we'll get to later. Our friend David Kaplan has some opinions and thoughts out there as well. Lots going on, and it's all negative around Teven Jenkins, but this really ramped up, like I said, when Ian Rapoport reported that the Bears have received calls and have held trade talks centered around Jenkins. Sources tell him and Mike Garafolo, former second-round pick, has drawn interest based on his potential, which he does have big-time potential. Garafolo added this also. As often is the case, new regime is much more willing to part with draft picks they didn't make. We'll see what happens with the Bears and Teven Jenkins. And, yeah, we'll see, and I kind of imagine something's going to happen quickly here. Now, I do want to add, Teven Jenkins responded to someone on Twitter. Do we have that tweet, Jack? We'll go to that tweet real quick. Someone said, "Hey, man, what's going on? You okay?" And he said, "I'm good. Don't believe everything you read." I'm in the camp of, hey, actions speak louder than words, and you're not at practice for whatever reason. But, maybe that's something to consider from the man himself. Here's the bottom line. Things are trending in the wrong direction. That's just the reality of it. Whatever Teven Jenkins says on Twitter, I don't carry with that much value right now. He's missed 5 straight practices. Hey, if he's hurt, he's hurt. But that's not exactly positive either. If you're hurt enough to miss 5 straight practices, that's a problem in itself as well. If you're not hurt and you're just disgruntled, or the Bears are disgruntled with you, that is also a problem. So things trending down. It's not looking good at this point in time. We'll obviously monitor the latest developments out of training camp, which is why you should subscribe. If Teven Jenkins gets traded, we're going to break it down. Subscribe to the channel today for the latest Bears news and rumors out of training camp. And, yeah, if the Bears make a big trade like this, we will break it down. Probably go live, depending on what time of day it happens, if I'm available to come into the studio. All right, so I kind of want to explore with Teven Jenkins here. How did we get here? How did we get to this point? I think a big moment in this, after the Bears, of course, drafted him, we can look at a timeline here, is the back surgery he had. Because he had some back problems coming out of college, but then after the Bears traded up to draft him, number 39 overall, he has another back surgery, and a different part of the back, by the way, completely unrelated to the other back problems. So you're talking about 2 separate back issues. I think that really set him back before playing a few games last year. I think the back issues have held him back. I do wonder if that second surgery kind of limits some of the flexibility, some of the mobility, because everybody's like, well, he's a mauler. He doesn't fit in this scheme. Well, his athletic testing score actually was pretty high. I'm not going to say he was the most agile offensive lineman, but he wasn't unflexible, if that makes sense. He was above average in the athleticism department. So I wonder if that second back injury really set him back. So that's number one. Number two, lack of continuity between Jenkins and this Bears regime. I think this is the most obvious one. They are clearly not on the same page here. This new regime of Matt Eberflus, Ryan Poles, I'll throw Chris Morgan in there too, the offensive line coach, and Teven Jenkins, not in sync. Something happened, in my opinion, during OTAs, because that last week of OTAs, he went from getting starting reps to not getting starting reps. And since then, he has not taken a single starting rep to my knowledge. Obviously, he's missed most of training camp to this point, but even the first training camp practice, he was working with the twos at right tackle. And during minicamp, he did not get starting reps either. So something happened, in my opinion. I don't know if there was a specific incident or if it was just a feeling among this new Bears regime, but clearly these guys are not on the same page. More things to consider in a moment. But I do want to shout out today's sponsor, Mint Mobile. They are fantastic. I told you earlier, $15 per month phone plans, which is great. A lot of phone bills are over $100 these days. Unlimited talk and text, high-speed data on the nation's largest 5G LTE network. It comes with a free mobile hotspot, which is nice as well. I think the coolest part about Mint Mobile is they will send you an eSIM card, a digital SIM card. You can keep your same phone and your same phone number and just switch through the digital SIM card from whatever your current provider is to Mint Mobile. It takes about 15 or 20 minutes. It's really simple, really easy. Don't believe me? Go to mintmobile.com/chatsports. Plan starting at just $15 per month. Save some money with Mint Mobile today, just like I have. All right, how did we get here? Point number 3 with Teven Jenkins. Positional shuffling. I do think the Bears organization does deserve some blame. Not necessarily this new regime, but the Bears as a whole. Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy trade up to get Teven Jenkins, which, by the way, I actually didn't mind that. I thought Teven Jenkins was a first-round talent, and they got him at 39 overall. I'm fine with that. What really caught my eye, though, is they moved him to left tackle, because clearly they viewed him as that. I did not. He played primarily right tackle in college. Obviously, he has the back surgery. We didn't see him play enough games at left to really make a determination. But in my opinion, he was not a left tackle. He's a right tackle. That's what this regime viewed him as. So last year, he gets all ready to go, switches to left tackle, goes public with the media. He's like, yeah, I've finally gotten more comfortable. I'm a left tackle. That regime goes. New regime comes in. Hey, no, you're a right tackle. So that's tough for Jenkins to deal with. I will give him, some not a pass, but I can at least be understanding with that. They've moved him around a lot for a player who's only been in the organization for a year and some change. So I do think that's a bit challenging for a young player. All right, point number 4. And again, this is kind of like point number 2. This is more on Jenkins, in my opinion. I just don't think he's buying in. What did we hear when Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus took this job? Hits principles, stuff like we're going to weed guys out that don't fit into our program. Culture, they're setting in their own standards and culture, and we've heard players talk about it. Way more accountability now than with the last regime. I don't think Teven Jenkins is connecting with that. I don't think he's buying into what this new regime is selling. And hey, the reality is that's unfortunate, but also at the same time, they'll be like, okay, we're just going to move you then. And that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not confident he's going to be here. He just has not responded to adversity. It's very possible at OTAs and minicamp, Eberflus said, hey, let's work Teven with the 2, see how he responds to that. Well, he hasn't worked with the 1 since. So did he fold mentally? Is he not built to handle adversity? You got to be if you're going to play in the National Football League, especially as an offensive lineman. You have got to be tough at that position. The Bears blog, who's tapped in pretty well to the organization, was all over the coaching search. Jeff Hughes, want to give him some love here. He tweeted out kind of a four-tweet thread. I just want to focus on this one, though. He said, one friend told me in the spring that the combination of Poles, Eberflus, and Chris Morgan, the offensive line coach, would seriously test Teven Jenkins' resolve. Since that note, I've constantly repeated the question, how does this leadership view Jenkins? Nowhere. How? I think we have our answer. I think that's very legitimate. He has not responded well since the spring, as it would appear. David Kaplan hopped on his show, Unfiltered, whatever it is that he does with NBC in Chicago. He called Jenkins immature, basically. Says he's not mature, doesn't think he's injured, says he's immature. There were some maturity question marks coming out of Oklahoma State. You've read, other loose reports have surfaced that, he would have emotional breakdowns at Oklahoma State. It's a tough thing, man. Like, you got to be built different to play in the NFL, and maybe Teven Jenkins just isn't. It's very possible. All right, so I want to run through a couple theories and thoughts, which I kind of have throughout the show already. Number 1. I just don't think Teven Jenkins has mental toughness. I think he lacks mental toughness. And I do want to be careful. I want to understand, separate legitimate mental health issues from someone who's just not tough enough to play in the NFL. Like, if there's some mental health thing going on, that's a totally different thing. I'm just saying I don't think he's the most coachable player, and I don't think he responds well to adversity. That is what I'm saying. But I want to be very clear on the wording because I think it's important. So that's number one. And number two, you add all this up, I think he's going to get traded because of that. I think this regime is hard-nosed, and if you don't meet their standards, you're not going to be here very long. So I think they're going to take calls. I think if they get what they think is a reasonable offer for Teven Jenkins, they will pounce on it, and they will wipe their hands clean and move on from it. Yeah, it sucks. Top 40 pick last year. The prior regime moved up to get him. But you know what? It hasn't worked out, and if the new regime doesn't value him, it doesn't really matter where he got drafted last year because the new regime may not value him at all at the end of the day. So I posed this on my social medias, at HGramNFL on Twitter and Instagram. I'll ask you guys here. Would you trade Teven Jenkins for a fourth-round pick? I think that's reasonable at this point. You drafted him in the second. He hasn't played that much. He's disgruntled. If you could get a fourth, I think it's a decent offer. Type T for trade, type K for keep. Would you rather keep him or trade him for a fourth-round pick?